Do you have any advice for couples who are getting divorced that have kids?
I think the first thing I'd say is congratulations. Your life is substantially harder. I'm very sorry.
Welcome to Should We Get Married?
My name is Emily Carter.
My name is Maxson and Emily.
And in this podcast, we're trying to figure out if we are going to get legally married to each other.
Or stay dating forever.
What's up with people playing it so cool these days?
Today's guest is Archie. He is a substance abuse counselor, nationally ranked yo-yoer, model, and child of divorce. And not just any divorce, he is the son of Isabel, who we talked to in episode 3.
Let's get into it.
Maxson, tell me about how we got Archie on the show.
So we did this episode with Isabel, his mom, and it was the first episode that he has listened to from the show. And then after he listened to it, he reached out to me because we know each other. And he said, hey, I loved the episode, but I have opinions on this independently, and I'd love an opportunity to share.
Mm-hmm. It's cool to get the parent and the child on the same show.
You know, I can really see that Archie is his mom's son. He has a zen to him that reminds me a lot of her relationship with this experience of getting divorced. And like, they both share this idea of, hey, painful that it happened, but I don't regret that it happened. And I'm into the life that I have now, and none of that would be possible without this.
I really like when people use hard experiences in their life to gain wisdom and share it with people rather than let it harden them or like block them from the world. I feel like both of them are very generous in the way they talk about it.
Totally. Super fun conversation. And thanks, Archie, for doing it with us.
Let's get into it.
I am directly connected to 8 separate divorces, all in my immediate family. So I'd like to think I have a very interesting perspective as to what marriage can look like, or what after marriage can look like specifically.
Yeah, totally.
Tell us about the 8 divorces. What do you mean?
My father's parents have been divorced. My mom's father was divorced. So that's 2. And then both of my dad's grandparents got divorced. So that's 2 divorces from dad, 1 divorce from mom. My stepdad has been divorced before he met my mom. My mom has been divorced, obviously. And my dad has been divorced 3 times. So that makes 8.
Wow, that's it.
I think I only have 2 relatives I'm related to directly that haven't been divorced, that aren't my siblings.
Whoa.
It's almost like divorce is the norm for you more than everlasting love is the norm.
Your mom was in an earlier episode with us. Your mom is amazing. Loved her story. Love her as a person.
I should note also, I have never and will never read the book that is about my parents' divorce. I will never read that book. A lot of my friends have read that book, and I often give it to people to read. But very intentionally, I have never read that book.
I'm curious about that. I've read the book. I read the book after we did the interview. So I'm so curious why you have this aversion to reading it.
I'm the only one who has like concrete memory of my mom and my dad being together as a family unit.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to keep that as that. Like I want, like it is everyone's, you know, like with social media and stuff, this has all changed. But like for years and years and years, your early childhood memories were just these sort of like vaguely remembered pieces of time. And I have like 1 or 2 super vivid memories from this point. But generally, like there's a lot of like sort of like fuzz around it. And I want to keep it that way. I don't want my experience, my early childhood to be super colored by, granted, someone I love, respect, and totally trust her to be honest, but my mom's opinion of it. Even though I know for a fact it is not a super opinionated book, my mom was very, very, very good at writing a story about divorce that was not just trashing on my dad, which I'm very grateful for. And I'll touch more on that later. But yeah, that's sort of why I haven't read it.
Yeah. You're speaking Emily's language.
I just remember seeing it at Starbucks and being like, oh, that's my mom's book.
Whoa.
A lot of people in my periphery in my life had read the book and now knew more about my life than I did.
Wow.
I had teachers say that they'd read my mom's book before and then getting very weird about the premise of like, for instance, like my dad showing up to school to pick me up. And and I remember thinking, and that could have just been my head and it being an occasion for me having my dad who lived out of state picking me up from school. But I do remember there just being this odd sort of like piece of information that I now knew was because they were aware that my dad had an affair.
How old were you when your parents first encountered the issues and then decided to separate?
So my parents separated when I was 4.
Okay.
And I remember just coming to New York City for Christmas and then being like, when am I going to go back home? And mom just sort of being like, this is home now.
Do you remember feeling scared at all or uncomfortable with the move or with any of the changes?
I think I was young enough to understand that something was changing. And I was very confused by the premise of having someone that was my dad spiritually, but no longer my dad, like legally. And I remember even like when my stepdad told me and my little brother that he was going to marry my mom, that was when I found out that she was no longer married to my dad. Or like, it was definitely told to me before, but I just remember that conversation of me being like, oh, this is something that can happen. Like, this is like you can be married and then not be married anymore. And then you can also marry someone else. So I absolutely was just like flabbergasted by the concept that I could just have another dad. I really, really love my stepdad, like more than anything. I would like to say I have never had a problem with a step-parent, ever.
Do you remember your parents like sitting you down and telling you that you're not going to be like living in the same house as both of them at the same time?
I think it was just like, we're moving. And then I communicated with my dad via like letters and phone calls.
Do you wish that your parents had like figured out a way to stick it out for you and your childhood?
No. Like straight up, no. I don't want to say I'm grateful that my parents got divorced because I think it was a lot of pain on both parties' ends. And I do think that like, God, like not a great person to quote right now, but Louis C.K. has a fantastic line where he says like, no good marriage has ever ended in divorce. And I really just like, that is like rocked me to my core when I heard it. Cause I was like, this was supposed to happen.
Why do you think that Louis C.K. line impacted you or stuck with you?
It just caused me way more pain wondering the what if and being like, what if they had worked it out? What if my dad lived closer to me? What if my parents still lived together? And then just getting it like put out so plainly to me of going like, but it didn't and it never was going to. Like, this is not something that was ever supposed to be.
Yep.
I get a lot of comfort in that. I get a lot of comfort in the idea that like it was never in the cards.
I mean, what do you think happened to your dad? Do you think your dad fell out of love with your mom? Do you think your dad made a mistake? Like, you think he didn't make a mistake?
I don't think he made a mistake because it ended up resulting in like I have a sister because of that. I think in a lot of ways I'm very similar to my dad. And there's a lot of pieces of me that I had discovered far later in my life as like, oh, that's a dad thing. That's mine. I love my stepdad to death. It is very clear that we are not related in some ways. It's very clear that he raised me, but there are some things that are so innate to him that are just not. My stepdad counts his sock drawer every night and like makes sure that nothing is missing. Like, my stepdad is the most like fine-tooth comb person you've ever met. And I am so not like that. My life feels like it is constantly like, I'm like sort of like in this constant like, I feel like I'm just constantly like dropping things, and my life is just a kind of a constant bid against my own terrible executive function. Finding out later that is very much my dad thing and not something that really is like not something. It's like there were a lot of things I thought were just sort of wrong with me that turns out were just like the other 50% of me that I just sort of had to learn how to deal with. And I think one of the things like the impulsivity and sort of the like line of decisions that I think causes someone to make a decision like my dad did live inside me. Like, they definitely are part of me. I have never felt a super strong urge to ever like cheat on a partner, but I have a long history with substance abuse, and I've made very selfish decisions that have harmed other people in my life. Try to own up for it, absolutely. But those are things that like I can look back up my parental family tree and be like, oh yeah, that's something that my dad has done before. That is something that my dad's dad has done before. And there's this weird like a line of like a type of decision making I'm capable of doing that is I can trace directly back to my dad. And also, I don't think my dad's a bad person for it. I think he just legitimately like it is a type of person that I also happen to be. And I think when unchecked or understood at a young enough age, you end up making decisions that are, impulsive and selfish.
One of the things people say in regard to divorce is, oh, like you guys have to stay together or else your kids are going to be all messed up. Stay together for the sake of the family, stay together for the mental health of the children, blah, blah, blah. And you just explained to us, had they stayed together, it probably would have been like,
so
bad.
I'll say this. Like, I am a very learning disabled, never did good in school. I'm a meth addict. I have history with like sex work. I have like, if you look at my life historically, you see someone who was kind of a fuck up and was fucked up. I think that would have existed if my parents stayed together, if they didn't stay together. Like the amount of like my own personal stuff, like it's a very common thing you'll hear in like recovery circles. I wasn't thinking about daddy cheating on mommy when I was like lighting up a meth pipe for the first time. It was just like a decision I made.
Damn,
and
it's so intense, dude.
Yeah, no, sorry, but that is sort of the case where it's like, I don't think that is a part of
the divorce.
I think that like, I don't think the divorce affected that. And one of the beautiful things about what I've seen and how divorce can really be functional, and I'll get on this later, is that like when I was sick, my parents completely dropped their shit and helped me out. My dad, my stepdad, my mom, they fucking went to Utah. They met me in my treatment program. My therapist actually pulled me aside and said, you have no idea how fucking lucky you have it that your parents are able, like, you don't need to be a mediator. My therapist didn't need to be a mediator. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they were all able to like connect and like help me out when I was like really not okay is like, I think if you're going to take away anything from what I'm saying in this whole podcast, is that like, it didn't matter that my parents got divorced for me. Yeah. Like, it just straight up did not matter, because everything I needed from them, they were able to provide.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's really powerful. Like even this image of more than one set of parents being able to be there for you is incredible. Like, it sounds like this divorce experience is not what led you to make these difficult choices that I'm sure have taught you a lot. You had like genetics in you and a whole bunch of other things going on, but it's not like you were quote unquote damaged from the divorce. And if anything, you were able to have that many more hands on deck to support you when you needed it. And that's really interesting.
Yeah.
No, I feel like one of the big uncoverings here from this episode, from this conversation with you, is, of course, the way that people get divorced can be damaging, and the way that people get divorced can be maybe neutral, maybe slightly uplifting. I don't know if it inspired you to want to, treat your partners better even during conflict. But like, that's important. It's not just, people want to like reduce the nuance to just don't get divorced because it's going to mess your kid up. And that's just not true. Like, that's, at least in this instance, like, that's not true. And that's really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I think people treat the institution of divorce as something that is the thing that ruins relationships. And I think if there's anything I want to say on this, it's that people ruin relationships. If you're not letting your kids talk to another parent, if you are in an active custody battle over your kids, that's not because of divorce. That's because you're a shitty person, and you probably shouldn't have made several choices to lead you up to this point. Because in the same way that I think my parents should have gotten divorced, I also think you shouldn't get married if that is a liability you foresee. That if you feel like you are going to have to custody battle for your kids, like, that is the like big thing. Because as soon as you divorce someone, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to have your kids should be able to have a completely normal and like comfortable upbringing. Because like, at the end of the day, what marriage is a like people say that divorce is the end of the promise of marriage, they'll be together forever. No, you're still going to be together forever because you have kids and financial responsibilities shared. Like, people open businesses together. People create all of these things that like mesh people's lives together, and they don't just go away because of the incredibly expensive and long-lasting process that is divorce. It actually, like, you still need to deal with the other person forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point.
The divorce itself is like okay, we can move on from that and be like, what's the behavior around this that's actually impacting people?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned like, shitty people are doing the bad divorces. I do want to acknowledge, like, I think that life can really surprise you. And we've had conversations with people who are completely shocked at the person that they decided to marry. And like, having read the book, it's obvious that both of your parents were incredibly thoughtful about how they decided to separate. And just situations can be really difficult. And I would hate to label people who are having an acrimonious divorce as quote unquote shitty people, because I think it's just more complicated than that. I think that it could happen to a lot of people.
This was my whole sort of spiel I just went on is sort of unnuanced, because I do get sick of people blaming divorce as the culprit for this.
Yeah.
Like, there's actively times when like things change majorly, and like there is going to, like, divorce is absolutely but also like acrimonious divorces I think can be more avoided than that. Like, there was a kid in my wilderness program who I remember his parents were in this like years long custody battle over him. And it was very much like this thing where it was like you do have a kid, you have these like, yes, there's like circumstances that maybe weren't foreseen when they chose to have the kid or when they chose to get married. But at the same time, you're here and you are making someone's life substantially worse. And you have like, this kid had been into wilderness several times, and like your kid is actively struggling in a way that like, y'all kind of need to figure your shit out, because y'all can't be like, if y'all can't be in the same room together, and he has to have like, there gets to a point where it's like there does need to be a baseline, like there's a third party involved, and that is something where it's like important for. And the problem is like the parties when there isn't, like if someone gets married and their partner ends up being a criminal or like all of those things where it's like that can't happen. I think that's a different thing entirely. But in a divorce where like both parties are fundamentally able to participate in society in a way that is lawful and safe, I do think there needs to be more conversations about like how to have divorces that don't like just burn things down.
Something that we heard from a friend was, you should only marry someone who you think you would have like a nice divorce with, which really stuck with me, where it's like, are they the kind of person that even if you're just not supposed to be together anymore, you're not going to be together anymore, are they going to be as nice as they possibly can to you? Are they going to try and share with you? Are they going to try and support you financially? Are they going to try and make it easy for you to see your child? That's a really interesting barometer for whether or not you should get married that I find really touching. And a lot of people would probably not like to think about that as they go into their marriage. And that's why we get a lot of pushback on this show, is because the show is kind of a version of that, of like really figuring out all these different stories. So
I'm as old as my dad was when he got married for the first time.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
And I think I'm coming up to the age when he got divorced for the first time. But all that being said, if I got married today, I do not think that relationship would work out terribly well. I don't know if I'd be able to handle it. But I also could see myself being so enamored with someone that I would make that choice. So that is like the first line of like empathy there, where it's like, I can totally see how I could make the same thing. Just because I've seen it, my older sister saw it, just because I have like very clean evidence that is not a good idea. There's still a part of me that feels like I have the capacity to make that choice.
I would love to know how you imagine marriage in your life. Is it something that you want?
I'd like a wedding. Those seem fucking sick. I'd really love to have a wedding. As far as marriage goes, I think it is a really nice thing to think about. And I really like the idea of meeting someone and then building a life with them, and that life, and having a like life partner, because I do think that is very important. I've seen a lot of marriages not work out, but I've also seen marriages work very well in my life. And I do believe that like marriage till death can absolutely be a thing. My grandparents on my mom's side have had a like really lovely, long-lasting marriage. My step-grandparents from my stepdad, both of my dad's parents' remarriage ended up being very good fits that have gone on until my respective grandfathers passed. So I like do believe it. I believe that like marriage can be successful, but I believe it's the same thing, like any relationship can be successful and any relationship can last forever.
Yeah. Do you have any advice or a message for couples who are getting divorced that have kids?
I think the first thing I'd say is like, congratulations, your life is substantially harder. I'm very sorry. I think the other thing is that, like, do you love your kid more than you have problems with the other person? And if the answer is anything other than yes, I think you should keep on working on it until the answer is yes. Because, like, if that kid gets sick, if that kid needs to go to rehab, if that kid ends up having any problem that needs both members of the support there, y'all need to be able to show up for this person in the best way possible.
I like that.
So, Archie, you know me, you know Emily, not the most in the world, but a bit. You have had various life experiences that have brought you to an understanding of relationships and stuff in your own life. Do you think that Emily and I should get legally married?
I think my answer to this was going to be, it doesn't matter, because y'all kind of already have made, that's already kind of like, y'all already have the enmeshed time. Y'all been together for how many years now?
4.5.
Almost 5.
Like, almost 5 years. That's half a decade. Like, y'all have the, like, I think it would be very hard for you guys to completely rid each other out of each other's lives. I actually don't know y'all's relationship super well, but I have a suspicion that if you've been together with someone for 5 years, it would be very hard to, like, hard cut off that person for your life and, like, start again. The answer is, like, yeah, it doesn't really matter. But also, I think fundamentally, like the wedding would be cool. I'd show up to that, like, solely for that reason. Yeah, get married. I want to see what y'all do for a wedding. I think y'all throw good parties. I know that. Like,
but if you had to make, like, an actual call on legally getting married,
yeah, why not? Right?
We'll take it under advisement.
I like the idea of, like, we brought on a professional yo-yoer to talk about divorce. That's a fun one.
Do people call it finger skating?
No, but I like that.
All right, man. This was so fun. Archie,
Absolutely. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much
coming on.
having
thank
me.
you. Super generous of you to share your life with us, and you're super cool. And if I had a kid, I'd be turns out like you because you're epic.
That's so sweet. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Well, in terms of this idea that we touched on, which is you should only get married to someone who you think you would have a nice divorce with, which I'm really into as an idea. Like, where do you think we fall on that, Emily?
In my head, like, you don't know how these things go. I'm sure in every divorce, someone looks around and they're like, how the hell did we get here? And we loved each other and we were respectful and kind toward each other. Like, how are we in this situation? And I imagine the most telling thing is less so looking at the dynamic that you two share, because that can change pretty quickly, and more looking at the paper trail of that person's life and, like, are they someone that, like, torches things to the ground, has a lot of anger and resentment toward people that they feel wronged by, has like burned bridges in their lifetime. Like, to me, that's more telling to how a divorce will go, more than, like, how you treat each other day to day. Because I'm sure people end up in divorces where they are very surprised by the intensity and unfairness and unkindness that's happening.
Okay, well, how do you think I am? Do you think that, like, where do I fall on that assessment so far?
I do not find you to be a torch something to the ground person. I find you to be very fair and empathetic and easy to disagree with. And I think that you disagree with people well in your life. So I think you would be fair and kind, but who knows? I'm sure I'm saying all of this with, like, literally no experience with divorce in my life other than, like, friends' parents who I didn't know all that well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think a big part of why we like each other is because we have these traits that seem to indicate that we will be nice to each other. But I agree that it's really hard to know. We've never been in that situation before. But we have been in situations that are, like, difficult, you know? We talk about it, like, in the couples therapy episode, that we have gone through challenges, and we go through challenges all the time. And I think for the most part, we're decently good at being nice to each other throughout challenges. I feel like last night we were watching a show and you wanted to end the show 14 minutes early, and I was completely shocked and aghast that you think that it's appropriate to just, like, stop watching a show that you've committed to watching. I was really shocked by that, but I was still somewhat nice to you during that. And then you were somewhat nice to me during that. Although I do feel a little embarrassed that I was so upset about that. Like, Maybe that's bad. Maybe it's an indication that I do have some shit to work on. But like, we fight in a kind of a decent way, I would say. Do you agree with that?
I think we're good at making fun of ourselves as we're fighting and like clowning with our emotions. If we're misrepresenting something or embellishing to like get our point across, that's a rare occurrence. And if someone calls it out, the other person is pretty quick to be like, yeah, you're right. That wasn't a fair assessment of what happened.
Yeah.
And you're not like, you don't lose because you like misspoke or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and another thing, I think we like don't drag stuff from the past into the present. Like if we're focused on something, usually we're like pretty focused on that thing. And there's very little like, well, these 3 things happened that I didn't bring up before. And then things don't snowball.
Yeah. It just feels like we follow good rules of fighting. But
all is fair in love and war.
that expression is really unusual. I don't know if that's true. And I would love to talk to people who are going through divorce about if that's true or not, because I don't think all is fair in love and war. I think there are still rules.
I actually don't know what does that mean?
I think it means you can do anything you want in times of love and in times of war. So like if you think that's true, I think that's a little crazy. There should still be rules.
Basically, it means that in matters of warfare in love, whether or not something is fair or right is irrelevant. Your sole concern should be to win, and it doesn't matter if your actions harm other people along the way. Used to describe a situation in which people do not follow the usual rules of behavior and do things that are normally considered unfair. What would be an unfair thing in love?
An unfair thing in love?
Yeah, what's an example?
I'm supposed to hang out with my friend Tyler, but I'm like, oh, I just fell in love with Emily. So it's like, sorry, Tyler, I'm not going to go have dinner with you. I don't know. That's kind of how I've understood it.
Yeah, I disagree with the statement. I've never actually thought about what it meant.
Yeah. Do you often say stuff that you don't understand?
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome.
Right.
Right. No, completely.
That's one of my favorite platitudes.
Got it.
No, I love platitudes.
No, she does love. No, but seriously, guys, she does love platitudes.
1 in the hand is worth 2 in the bird.
That's right. Yeah. Kill 2 birds with 1 bird. Kill 2 stones with 1 bird.
Okay, Maxson, is this conversation putting a small pebble in the bucket of get married or a pebble in the bucket of don't get married?
I am definitely putting my pebble in the bucket of get married. Archie is great. Yes, he's undergone some struggles, but I really think that his point that it's just about the way that people get divorced, that's the thing that's really challenging. And I feel with you, we've got a decent shot. You know, we have decent reps. There's no way to predict the future, but I think it's a good shot. I feel better about having a nice divorce from you than I feel with anybody else. For me, it's a pebble in the bucket of get married. Emily, what about you?
I found this conversation more looking at the buckets of have kids or don't have kids. That feels like more where we're focusing. But if I'm going to bring it back to marriage, I will put a pebble in the get married bucket. Similarly, I think that I would like to have kids and I would like to have them grow up in a home of 2 loving parents and a community of people around them who love them. Barring that, I will do my very best to be like extremely loving to them and give them a loving environment, even if that means that we separate, which I do not want to happen. Yeah, I trust our conflict resolution and repair systems, and I think we will do a good job no matter what happens.
Well, there you have it, folks. 2 small pebbles weighing in the bucket of get married. Goodbye.
Bye.
Should We Get Married is an original series by Easily Wowed and Bad Cooley Productions. This episode was created by me, Maxson Jarecki,
And me, Emily Carter.
and our producer, Ramoy Phillip.
Theme music is the song Fake Romantic by the band Melt. Logo and brand design by Madeline Vogue.
Sound design and mixing by Ramoy Phillip.
There are so many of you out there who are asking these exact same questions, and we don't all have to investigate marriage on our own. Subscribe to Should We Get Married and learn with us as we make our decision.
See you next time.
Fake romantic. You told me